Hello, my fellow kin. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a very special episode today. Now, originally, this was supposed to be a speculative video on our brand new detachment that we are expecting to receive before Christmas of this year for GW's Advent calendar, the Grotmas event, where every faction is supposed to be getting at least one detachment. So I sat at my desk, I started working on the video, and I very quickly felt a little bit uninspired. I felt like I needed to do something a little bit more for this very special month. And why is that a very special month? December is very important, not just because of the holidays, but more importantly for me, because it will mark exactly 1 year very soon since I started the YouTube channel. That's right, Votann versus 40k is celebrating its first birthday this year. So very exciting news. And I just took a moment to sit back and let it all sink in, because it really did blow me away. When I made this channel a year ago, I never would have dreamed that it would be at where it's at today. I think looking back at my first video, I learned a lot. Like, thumbnails definitely improved. And just thinking about, I remember setting this goal, I was like, I would love to get like 1,000 subs in my lifetime. That would be amazing. And in the first year, we got to 3,000, which is just like mind-blowing. And none of this, of course, at all, none of this would be possible without you guys, the viewers, who are here supporting me every time I put a video out, to our amazing Discord community, the server we have. People could join free of charge in the description below if you're not in there already, who have helped build this incredible community together, where we share photos, we share tactics, we talk, engage with the hobby in meaningful ways. And I think we really have built something special here. So another big thank you to the Discord server and the community as well for just always being there. And then, of course, the last big thank you I want to give is to our channel members. Our channel members have gone above and beyond. Again, this is just something that like I never would have ever dreamt of having, is like a base of people who are so engaged with the content, who want to support the channel and help elevate it to the next level and help bring new content to the forefront. And again, like I cannot thank you guys enough for all of your support, all of your generosity, and all of your support. It really, really does mean a lot. And it helps me bring you guys new and exciting things. And many of you are probably noticing we have a new backdrop behind us. We have some new lights in front over here. And of course, the biggest thing, we have a new camera, which is in front. Now, why would I get all of these things? Don't worry about it just yet. So yes, one beautiful year of YouTube. And with that, I wanted to give a big thank you, of course, to everyone, and talk a little bit about what I think we might expect to see in the Leagues of Votann detachment, and why I think out of any other army in the game, the Leagues of Votann are probably in the most interesting spot to getting a detachment, and potentially one that might be terrible. So, when the edition kicked off, Leagues of Votann came in with a whopping 30-something% win rate. And the reason for that is because our army rule of +1 to hit, +1 to wound didn't really have any way of impacting the game meaningfully. You only started the game off with that index detachment at the very start of the edition, giving out a couple of tokens instead of 4 sets of 2. And this led to not having any meaningful damage on the table. You simply couldn't play the game. And the entire army, basically the entire army, is ballistic skill 4 without any access to rerolling hits. So you're super inconsistent in your shooting output. Now, what GW did to help save this and help save the army, and it did work, is give our index detachment a boost. So instead of giving out, it was like 1 or 2 sets of tokens, you now give out 4 sets of 2 tokens at the start of the game. And that did miles. That was a massive boon to the army, just to help elevate us and put us on an even playing field. Right now, the army sits comfortably at, I think, 54% win rate, which is pretty good. Now, of course, the meta evolved, armies shifted, what people were bringing has changed, but I really do think that the bulk of the work that helped bring Votann up to being a viable army in the game was because of this change. Now, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because when we look at this change, there's also a drawback. Not only is it helping to boost the army up, but in a lot of ways, it's also just a crutch. So what happens if you take that crutch away? What can you possibly give an army whose faction identity is based around these tokens and having access to as many +1 to hit, +1 to wounds as humanly possible? What can you give them that would actually be incentivizing enough to drop having 4 of those at the start of the game and go for something else instead. And that's what I want to speculate on today. Well, I came up with a couple detachments. Now, the first one I think is a little bit strong. Probably not going to see this, a little bit complex of an implementation, but the first one I came up with is called the Long Grudge. And I like this one a lot because what it does instead of giving you those 4 tokens at the start of the game is it actually gives you 6 single tokens. You have the option of doubling up on these. So if you want, you could have 3 targets with 2 sets, or you could have 6 with a single token instead. So if you do decide to double them up, it's a little bit less efficient. You might as well just take an Oath Band instead, unless you really want access to these stratagems, of course, that are going to be in this detachment. But you're probably better off just going with the 4 set instead. However, if you opt for this one, then you unlock the ability to have 6 sets of tokens, and not only that, but you also get to reroll hit rolls of 1 on an objective. And if you're shooting at something that is judged on an objective, 1 or 2 tokens, you reroll all hit rolls instead. So I think this takes the army's mid-game ramp of just being able to have coordinated output. It diminishes that a little bit, but instead gives you a little bit more early game play if your opponent holds back those judged targets. There are more of them available. There are more targets for you to choose from. So if something goes on an objective, we've seen this before in other detachments as well, it just increases your efficiency, it increases your output. So I think this could be really nice and a really good trade-off between having access to those 4 set tokens at the start of the game. Again, this is probably quite strong, and it might get a little bit stronger when we look at some of the stratagems. So for the stratagems, I try to think of things that fit the deficiencies that Votann have. What we've seen with a lot of these other detachments that have been released for stratagems is that they're kind of curated around one of the weaknesses of the army that they're designed for. For example, Death Guard are pretty slow, so the detachment gives them access to quicker movement speed. For example, Tyranids, we see that nobody really runs Tyranid warriors. Well, the detachment is curated for them. So I think with the Leagues of Votann, if we look at what these deficiencies are, I think it's generally the movement, which is really slow. It's the consistency in the shooting, which is also really low because we don't have any access to real rerolls. And then I would say that the army generally lacks tricks. There aren't any tricks that we could do. So I think with this detachment, we've addressed one of the big issues, which is that consistency. We now have access to more reliable hit rolls across the entire army, but we haven't increased that wounding damage just yet. There are probably going to be some ways for us to do that with the stratagems. So the first stratagem I have for us here that addresses one of these deficiencies being the movement is giving access to a 3-inch deep strike. I think this could be really powerful, especially on a Hearthguard unit. I know they've fallen out of flavor. I'm a big fan of Hearthguard personally, and I think having a 3-inch deep strike could be really scary on this unit, especially if it has access to rerolling hit rolls. Can you imagine a 10-man brick coming down from deep strike with a 3-inch deep strike and having access to rerolling hits on the plasmas? Absolutely brutal. I think this could be really fun and just bring some new life into the unit. I think something else that the detachment could probably benefit from is having some kind of mobility buff. So probably like advance and shoot on a unit as well. So this would probably be used exclusively on the bikes. You would take like 6-man bike squads and just get to do advance and shoot. And maybe you could have some kind of limitation, like you could only treat the weapon as having assault if it shoots at something with a judgment token. That's probably a fair trade-off. I think another damage increase we could do is for 1 or 2 CP, you pick a unit, it gets reroll hits, reroll wounds, doesn't matter if the target is judged, doesn't matter if it's on an objective. So this just gives you that amplification of your damage. Outside of playing on top of objectives, you have some flexibility if you do decide to push a little bit more aggressively, or if something is pushing towards you, not on an objective. So it gives you a little bit more agency in how you want to use your damage output, which I think could be really nice. The last thing I have for this detachment is going to be access to a 5-up Feel No Pain. I think a 5-up Feel No Pain could be really powerful. It's something I've been hoping for such a long time. I was hoping that the Grimnir, when the Codex comes out, I'm hoping still that the Grimnir provides a 5-up Feel No Pain for the unit he's attached to, and he could attach to Hearthguard, for example. I think that would just be like super nice, super helpful to have. None of our units have invulnerable saves, so just having that extra built in for 1 CP on demand, you get to increase the durability of the unit, kind of like Fellhammer Siege Force. I think could be like really nice, just like a defensive boon to one of your units on the table. Now, I do think this attachment would probably be a little bit powerful, so GW is probably not going to go that route. What I do suspect is probably going to be what comes out, and what a lot of people are speculating is going to be one that synergizes or works on the synergy between our mechanized forces and our infantry. So kind of like an interaction between vehicles and infantry that are going to be disembarking. So what I have here for this one, it's quite simple. I haven't come up with a name yet, but I think it will be quite simple. Whenever a unit disembarks, you get +1 to hit and +1 to wound into the target that you're attacking. So I think with this, you would not have any tokens to hand out at the start of the game. So you'd be going into a game, 0 tokens on the enemy's units. But it gives you a little bit more agency again, because you could select on your turn essentially one unit or multiple units from your army that will coordinatedly get out of their transports or their vehicles, get this benefit of +1 to hit, +1 to wound, as if the target was judged. And then there's going to be some kind of synergies or some kind of combinations that you could do with your stratagems to get back inside of the transport again. So maybe like 1 CP in the shooting phase. After you shoot, you could re-embark inside of a transport. I don't think it'd be too crazy because, again, keep in mind, Votann only have movement speed 5, so we're quite slow. It's not like we could go across the table with this. So I do think our range is going to be much lower. We're still going to play that mid-board game, but I think it gives us a little bit more pressure, and it creates a really interesting interaction and something like fun for the army to do instead of just playing like a regular game of 40k. You'll have some tricks, which could be really nice. Building off of this theme, I think we could have something like when you disembark from a vehicle, you get lethal hits in your shooting. So maybe this could be something as simple as a stratagem support for infantry that they could shoot and they get lethal hits if they disembarked, or maybe it carries over to melee. Not entirely sure. Let me know what you guys think. Another big one that I would really like to see would be the ability to advance and charge. So maybe this could be like after you get out of a transport, you could still charge. So like the transport moves and then you get out and charge. So like assault ramp. Or maybe it's just as simple as having a unit gain the ability to advance and charge itself. So you just get that increased threat range. I think this could be really nice for something like Berserks as well. Just projecting that threat and getting that extra distance across the table. It could be really scary and really powerful. I think in a similar note for this, we're probably going to see something if this attachment actually comes to fruition, something that increases the advance rolls, makes them a little bit more consistent for vehicles. So probably 1 CP, you auto advance 6 on a vehicle. I would like to see this. I think it's a no-brainer that it would appear inside of this detachment. The last thing that I think would be a really fun stratagem for us to have that might address the gap of losing judgment tokens. I'm not sure which detachment this would fit into. You guys let me know. But I would like to see an on-demand, one unit targets another unit and treats it as if it was double judged. I think that would be really nice, just giving you so much more control over your turn in terms of what you need to kill and what you need to remove from an objective marker or from somewhere on the table. This could be really nice. Maybe it's 1 or 2 CP, you pick 1 or 2 units. That could be quite nice, a really good trade-off to losing those 4 tokens at the start of the game. Alright guys, so that's all I had for you today. What are you guys expecting to see when our detachment drops? What are you most excited for? What are you afraid of seeing? Let me know in the comments what you think the worst and best version of our detachment could be. I'd be really curious to read that as well. If you haven't already, feel free to join our Discord using the link down in the description below. It's free of charge. We have an amazing community of people, as I mentioned at the start of the video, so please do feel free to join in on all the fun. Again, I want to thank you all so much for supporting the channel for an entire year. Just absolutely crazy to me. I never thought I would have a YouTube channel, and it's a dream come true. So thank you guys so much, and I'm really excited for the new year so I could finally elevate the channel to the next level and bring you guys some incredible content. Announcement coming soon this month. Last thing I'll say, in a couple weeks from now, stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a big one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.